Hello and welcome to another episode of Life Change TV. Today, myself and my co-host Zoe B have a fantastic guest for you in the form and shape of the beautiful Dawn Westmoreland. Now, Dawn has been a victim of workplace bullying. She has an incredible story to share with us. So, Dawn, welcome to the show and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Mark and Zoe. It's exciting to be here.
Awesome, thank you. So, Dawn, can you just give us a brief overview of your story?
Well, yes, I'm retired from the Air Force, 20 years, and I worked in a government agency for 5 years, and I noticed that they were doing prohibited practices. And my background is 22 years in human resources, and I have a master's degree in it, so I understand policies and guidelines and prohibited personnel practices. So I took it upon myself to talk to management about the wrongdoings, and they were pretty upset with me and would not change, so I filed charges at 2 different protection agencies about the prohibited practices. And then after that, I received 2 years of horrific bullying from management. It was so bad that I was stalked, my phone was monitored, and I was not able to contact my mother and another witness that was a coworker. And a bunch of other things happened, and the stress got to me after 2 years, and I ended up being ambulanced twice to the hospital. The second time I was hospitalized 3 days in the mental health ward, and that's when I realized how it was impacting my health.
Wow, that's incredible, Dawn. I mean, I'm really interested to go back to the beginning and just hear a little bit about what triggered you to actually make the complaint. Was there one thing that happened, or did you have any concerns about doing that, or did you think that there might be issues with doing that sort of thing? What sort of went through your mind before you made that call? Was it a call, or how did you actually make the complaint?
Well, it initiated as a call, Zoe, and I contacted the Office of Special Counsel, and they basically, did nothing with it. And because I'm labeled as a disabled veteran, I ended up filing disability charges with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and then I got the hostility charges combined by the administrative judge. But in the beginning, I was nervous about it because, I was trying to work and fit in and get along with everybody. But I knew I had to step up into my personal power, and I had to do something about it. And I knew more than anybody else working in human resources that what they were doing was very wrong. And then I have absolutely no tolerance for bullying. I grew up being bullied as a child, as an introvert, so I have absolutely no tolerance for it.
So,
Wow.
Dawn, sorry, just jump in quickly. So you saw something that was taking place that you believed was wrong. You stood up for that, and so what happened next?
Well, as soon as I stood up to it, when I would apply for promotions that I was eligible for, I'd get a low rating on purpose. And I'm pretty much a nerdy girl. I love college and school. I have 4 degrees, and I get it honestly from my grandmother. But I would be denied promotions, and I would not get my medical reasonable accommodations met. I'm nearly 6 foot tall, and I was working in a very cramped desk. My work was working on a computer, and so I worked in conditions that were not ergonomically suited for my height. And they took months, the management took months to implement changes that the physical therapist recommended to make it more ergonomically fit for me. So I ended up having to keep going over to the Veteran Affairs Hospital to get medical care because of all the harm it was causing my wrists, my neck, and my back, which are disabilities that the VA rated years ago on me.
Wow.
Yeah,
So,
wow, that's incredible. I mean, what interests me with the whole idea of workplace bullying is how do you differentiate? I bet there's a lot of people who find it hard to differentiate between bullying and disciplinary action. Like, what's your take on that? How do you define the difference between those two things? Because I guess that's where there's probably quite a lot of people who are being victimized without even knowing it, perhaps.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Disciplinary action is when somebody's doing something wrong and you're taking rehabilitative action to help them, to correct them, to get them on the right path. Bullying is, ganging up on somebody, humiliating them. For example, I had things that were stolen out of my workplace, and the director would send an email out to 550 people, asking for the item to be returned, but he did not do that with other people that had things taken from their desk or, missing or lost. So I was singled out to be embarrassed, humiliated, and then I was denied the medical reasonable accommodation against both my doctor's request. So that was bullying to try to get rid of me.
Yeah.
And then I was charged with absent without leave, which is a very serious offense and can get you fired from the Veteran Affairs, even though I was taking proper action, given proper notice so I could get medical care at the VA as a disabled veteran. So I kept getting charges racked up against me, and then the Veteran Affairs management took action to actually fire me, and I was put on administrative leave for about 100-something days, and then I was requested to go back to the workplace. At that time, all my doctors, all three of them at that time, and the psychiatrist recommended that I don't go back for my safety and for my mental health. And I was basically ordered to go back, and I refused, and at that time I had secured a great lawyer that stood beside me all the way too.
Wow. So do you think it comes down to having to get a lawyer to actually stand up for yourself?
I did. I really did, because I ended up losing a year's worth of wages, and that's a lot of money, especially when you own a house and you have responsibilities and bills. So without my attorney, I would have never received the victory I received.
Wow. And I guess usually is the first place that people would usually go to HR, is that right? Did you not get any help from them? Were they not very supportive of your complaints?
Well, I addressed emails to the HR folks, and I was given wrong information. And the thing is, I know how to read a regulation and research. I was a manager for years, and again, I have a master's in HR, so it was very easy to find out the information that they were providing me from HR was incorrect.
Wow.
And one thing I've learned over the years is to document. So I documented over 2 feet of documentation on my case.
Wow. So you had it all in writing. That was smart.
Yeah, my lawyer loved me, I believe, because I handed it off to him and made it easy.
That's a smart move. And do you think, workplace bullying, is that something that's really quite common? It probably is, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who might be suffering from it but don't really know what to do next.
Well, it's my understanding from Emil Wagner, who did my press kit, that over 53% of all women have been bullied in the workplace. I was just down at Fort Lauderdale at a Wayne Dyer's convention, Writing from the Soul, and I was one of 6 people that got to stand up and read a 5-minute story that I'd written. And there were 800 of us there, or 500 and 300 live streaming. And so I talked about my story and the bullying, and then after that I had 3 women crying, chasing me down to tell me about their story. In fact, one of them had worked in the Veteran Affairs and had been bullied. So it really touched their heart too, and I know I'm not the only one that's ever been bullied.
Yeah, wow.
And so what I really like about this, Dawn, is obviously it's been a really tough experience and situation for you, but you're not taking on board the attitude of a victim. So what are you doing next with your experience?
Well, I have to confess, I was a victim for a while, and then I got sick and tired of the victim I became. I have to be truthful. And I was pretty pitiful. And I got to the point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and then I just stepped into my personal power. And that's when I reached out for what I call the healing arts. I got some hypnotherapy to deal with the stress and some energy work. And I started meditating and taking better care of my health and taking herbs to help me with managing my stress. And then from there, I loved it so much that I embraced it, become a hypnotherapist and a life coach myself.
Wow.
Wow. Can you remember, Dawn? Sorry, Mark, just quickly. Can you remember the point when you just realized that enough was enough? You just had enough of being in this victim mentality. Like, what was there a particular moment when you just thought, this is it, I'm going to take back my power and I'm going to move forward and I'm not going to let this beat me?
Yes, it was when I was in the mental health ward at the Veteran Affairs. I was so run down and depleted that I could not even walk. I was so exhausted. So I know I had to get my energy back, and my doctors were very concerned about my health and my well-being. And by the third day, I said, daggone it, I have had enough, and I am stepping into my personal power. I'm giving up the victimhood. It just doesn't look good on me, and I don't like it, and I don't like the person I've become. And that's when I really took charge of my life.
And I think that's really important to set that context, isn't it? That this is more than, you know, lots of people sort of work in offices and there's kind of petty office behaviour that sort of goes on. But this was much more than that, wasn't it, Dawn? This was senior management, this was senior staff that were basically making your life hell and took you to the sort of brink of depression. Is that right?
That's very true, Mark, because what I was able to sit down and figure out is about 1/3 of the place where I was working at was family and friends, and I realized there was a serious case of nepotism. And then I watched people with lower education, less experience moving up just because they were friends of management, and that's a prohibited personnel practice in the United States, you know, in the government agency. And that's when I took action and I said, no, this is wrong.
Wow. And you mentioned at the beginning that you were actually stalked. Is that right? I'd be interested to hear more about that. That sounds terrible.
Yes. Part of my case, when they tried to fire me, one girl was constantly standing behind me because my back was to the aisle in my workplace, and they would stand behind me and stare at what I was doing or follow me, or if I was 1 minute late from break, they would stand by my cubicle to watch when I'd come back, watch everywhere I went. It's pretty unnerving.
Yeah.
So, was there a point, Dawn, and I know you can't talk too much about how this was resolved in a legal sort of sense, but was there any point of everything that you basically said had happened to you, was there any point where those in charge or in power acknowledged the fact that this actually happened to you?
Yes, I can say this, Mark, that during the deposition with the director, he didn't come out and admit to being, you know, doing things wrong, but I had a brilliant lawyer that asked the right questions, and he did answer it correctly, which led to believe that, you know, the actions that were being taken against me were not, you know, were not right.
Wow. And so, Dawn, tell us all about the Foundation of Respect.
Well, the Foundation of Respect is a brilliant idea, and it's about empowering women in the workplace, but it also has to do with men too. We've all been bullied at one time or another, some a little bit, some a lot, and it's a site, a nonprofit, where people can donate as little as they want or as much as they want just by going to thefoundationofrespect.com. And with that money, we're able to set up teleclasses, speaking engagements. I plan to write a book talking about my experience to help empower women and also men.
So you're really on a mission to really support women and men who are going through bullying in the workplace. You know what it's like. You know you've been there, hey, and so you just want to stand by people to see an end to workplace bullying, and that's what the Foundation of Respect is all about.
Yes, and there's also a pledge on the website where you can go on and pledge to stand with me to stand up against bullying in the workplace.
I saw that. So you log on and you can state that you're standing with you to end workplace bullying. And I've seen around the world there's people in Australia, America, the UK who are standing with you. So I love this. By the fact that you are sharing your story, it's clearly opening doors both online and through the conference that you spoke at. And as it grows, that people are really kind of reaching out to you, hey, to share their own stories.
Yes, they are, and I'm starting to get interviews, and I'll be talking this Saturday about my story at a women entrepreneur event.
Wow. That's awesome. Dawn, I would love to ask a question. If people are watching this and they've experiencing workplace bullying themselves, like one of the things in my mind is that like bullying we kind of mentally see as something that happens in the school playground. And therefore we don't feel that we want to stand up or speak about it because it's almost disempowering to say I'm a victim of workplace bullying, because it mentally can reduce you in your own mind to being a child. What advice would you give to somebody who is watching this, who experienced workplace bullying but don't know what to do?
Well, the first thing I would do is, if it's constant bullying, I'd be documenting it, and I would take the documents home, not leave them at work. My workplace was invaded constantly, and I knew that my desk had been open, to pull out information. I knew somebody had been snooping, and also on my work phone too. So I would keep documentation, because it may need to come up later on, whether it goes to a trial or a hearing, or to whatever agency that you support it to or send it to. But I would tell anybody that's out there, do your own homework. Don't just rely on human resources to help you out. And I worked human resources 22 years, and I believe that most of them know how to do their work and how to do a good job. I think it's very important to be empowered and to know where to go, how to file charges. It's very important to know a lot about the subject and not just depend on other people to rescue you.
That's awesome advice. That's really good advice. And what about advice on a sort of personal level too? So obviously you went through the sort of hypnosis and life coaching sort of stuff. What advice would you give to somebody going through workplace bullying in terms of keeping themselves centered and mentally on track?
Well, it's really important to be very good to yourself. And I was always very good at helping other people and taking care of myself last. And I wrote a blog about it on the Foundation Respect website about being in the Air Force, and their mission was always, service before self. So I had to learn to take better care of myself, to eat better, to give myself more rest, to be easier and lighter on myself, because I'm very driven and I tend to want to be an overachiever. So it's really important to find what you consider calm and balance, whatever that is, whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga or exercise, hypnotherapy. There's got to be some modality out there that will help people to stay calm and centered. But you have to have self-love. You can't look for it elsewhere.
Awesome.
I think I really like what you were saying as well, Mark. I think it's so true about how there's almost this stigma with around bullying, and people probably don't want to admit that. Is that something that you'll help to kind of almost empower people instead, Dawn, with the Foundation of Respect? I think that's definitely a key area to focus on, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so people will stand up and actually feel proud to say, I've actually been a victim of bullying and I'm not going to stand for it.
It's so common anymore. Nobody should ever feel ashamed. And it may surprise you, but I believe that bullies are also victims because they act out of a sense of fear and a sense of lack themselves. And they certainly need to address, their own personal needs too. But again, they need to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
It's never okay or all right to be mean or mistreat or disrespect anybody in the workplace or anywhere else.
I just think, Dawn, that as you're sort of brave enough to share this story and vulnerably enough, I can just see this sort of opening a door for many people to, for that acceptance to say it's okay to share your story, it's okay to share what you're going through. And I just think you're going to be flooded.
Well, it's kind of hard sometimes to be so transparent, and I have to say it's almost embarrassing to tell anybody. A strong person like myself, had to be admitted to the mental health, but after 2 years of bullying, even the strongest person can break down. And even though I was never suicidal, I was very, very deeply depressed and very anxious, and dealing with loss of wages and just not knowing the outcome. But everything did turn out wonderful. It was a gift in crappy wrapping paper.
Awesome. And I think that's another really good point, though, Hayder. This is not just about the bullying, it's about the depression that you went through, and as you say, to share the fact that you were in a mental sort of ward. Would that be right?
Yeah, it was embarrassing. I didn't want anybody to recognize me there because I had worked in that VA system for a couple years in HR, and I kept thinking, oh my God, what if they see me, anybody sees me here? And a lot of people recognized me, and they were very compassionate toward me. Surprised I was there, but they were very compassionate. And I had wonderful doctors that supported me there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So just a question that springs to mind in terms of personal power, because to me this is all about, you were at the edge in terms of depression. Now, there are many things in people's lives when people struggle with whatever it is, relationships, jobs, bullying, whatever. What's your advice, Dawn, as to how to encourage people to stand in that personal power?
Very good question. First of all, when I deal with clients, most of them are women, and the biggest issues are confidence and self-love, and that they're stressed. So it's very important to have self-love, and that's not being egotistical. It's about really loving yourself and finding happiness within you. So I would work with somebody that, to empower them, because I can't change anybody. I can just assist to empower them to find the self-love within themselves, and with that they find their personal power.
That's beautiful.
They find the confidence. They love themselves in a healthy way, and then they notice their perspective in life is much different. They put out a different type of energy, a good type of energy.
That's awesome. So it's all about that self-love. That's brilliant. Zoe, do you have any final questions for Dawn?
I think I really just want to commend you, Dawn, for taking the strength to stand up and share a story that, obviously it wasn't an easy thing for you to do, to get up and tell the world that this has happened to you. And I just want to thank you. And I can see that this is going to help so many other women and men, who might have been a little bit scared or intimidated to perhaps come forward. And I think that's a really powerful thing. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Zoe and Mark. My honor to be with you tonight.
Thank you, Dawn. And just finally, so just repeat that website again, the web address.
It's thefoundationofrespect.com.
Awesome. So the foundationofrespect.com, people can go to financially support this non-profit organization that you are establishing. I know that your goal is 30,000, which is fantastic. So I'd like to encourage people to head over to the foundationofrespect.com and support Dawn in that way. Dawn, are you happy for people to contact you if they're experiencing something similar?
I would love to be contacted. I love helping people to empower them. They'll have to take the action themselves, but I can certainly guide them in ways that can empower them, and they can stand up to workplace bullying.
Awesome. And sometimes it's just being able to share your story with somebody that's kind of been there and understands. So I believe, Dawn, that your email address is dawn@thefoundationofrespect.com.
Yes.
Awesome. Dawn, again, I'd like to echo Zoe's words. Thank you so much for sharing this story and your sort of honesty and sort of vulnerability. I do believe that vulnerability opens doors to enable other people, to empower other people to become vulnerable themselves, and it's through vulnerability that we can really bring about change. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for being on the show. I'll put all the links at the bottom of this video so that people can find you and meet you and discover all about your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you, Zoe.
Thanks, Dawn.
Awesome. That was another episode of Life Change TV. Please join us next time where we'll be interviewing some more amazing people who are really working passionately to change their life, to change their community, and to change the world. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome.